pick up the deer and we're carrying it back. And then we have about 2 or 3 hours to take that emotional insult and we kind of process it. We just give our mind space to process it, which it does automatically. Now, if you look at what happens in people's days, they don't actually have any time to process what happens to them because we are so constantly distracted by external things. So I don't know if you're like this, but I was in this point where I was idiotically efficient. So I would wake up in the morning and I would listen to a podcast while I'm like doing my exercise or whatever. And then even when I'm cooking, I'm listening to a lecture. And then like when I'm walking to the train, I have earbuds in and I'm listening to a lecture there. On the train, I'm reading. I wanted my life to be completely efficient. I didn't want to waste a single moment.
I literally listen to the news in the shower. It's
right. So we don't want to waste time. And so if you really think about it, where's the attention of your mind? Your mind is pointed outside of you. And so then what happens is once we do not pay attention to ourselves, we lose sight of our internal signals. Literally in the same way that if you raise a child in a dark cave, the photoreceptors in their eyes won't develop. They will atrophy.
Hello, everyone. Oh. Microphone. So, hello, everyone. This is a professional setup here, you can tell. I was watching a video, some videos in the morning, like I do. And the red pill or the realization that men have issues seems to be more and more prevalent online, which is good. I mean, we all have issues. But I was listening to this and this isn't me. Clearly. Maybe that's why I'm not a bazillionaire or a psychologist on YouTube doing my rounds of interviews, and maybe why I haven't written books. I spend an embarrassing amount of time in my garage listening to music, sitting on the floor. I have mats, rubber mats on the floor, sitting on the floor stretching because I'm old and sore and stiff, but I'll spend an embarrassing amount of time in my head processing the events of the day. Now, I do take in a lot of media, a ton of media. I've also been a lifelong gamer. So the internet and the digital world is where I have spent the majority of my external. I mean, I grew up in Oregon, in the woods, hiking, camping, fishing, doing all the outdoorsy, manly stuff. Long distance bike rider, bicycle rider. So I did in my younger years have those experiences, but even then, I related. There was a cartoon, an old Warner Brothers cartoon, where it's a kid that drifts off into his imagination and gets into trouble all the time. I was that kid. I was, in the blink of an eye, in my head, experiencing some inner scenario that I was functioning at or processing. I've spent the majority of my life in my head processing. So I hear very driven professionals talking about how they try to be hyper efficient and they lose track of who they are. Man, I wonder, since these are two hyper-functional, hyper-driven professionals, if we're not watching two people in their own silo talking about the problems of their own silo. Sure, I think a lot of issues with men, with people, is that our roles are changing faster than a lot of people can process. I think more of it is to do with society, with civilization and technology is changing our roles, making us fit different roles that we don't normally do. I'm not sure how manly, if you went back 1,000 years ago, how manly wearing a suit in a board meeting, writing pencils and pointing, how manly that would have been considered. Versus someone out there with a spear and a net and hunting down game. They would look at some guy in a pretty suit. So our roles have, as far as manly men and feminine women, have always been changing, and I think they're as different now as they could possibly be from back then. But there are moments, my thought was, there are moments when really smart people are making generalizations about what the rest of us schlubs are doing. And I wonder, I haven't watched the whole interview. I don't have the energy. I'm feeling a little drained on the whole thing lately. But I wonder, he's a smart guy. He's talked to poor people and homeless people, and I don't know if he realizes that homeless people spend a lot of their time in their head, because where else they go to think? Or maybe it's just me. Maybe that's why I've always been kind of the weirdo, the odd one out, the nerdy, tree-hugging, environmentalist, socialist kind of, whatever the left is, and I'm not a diehard right-wing, arsenal-hoarding, coal-rolling Trump worshiper. Maybe that's what it is. It just seems really weird listening to two hyper-functional men talk about the problems of not taking the time to do inner processing. Man. Peace. Oh, Don't Die. That's the new one, right? The Don't Die. Brian Johnson, the Don't Die. Don't die.